And then the amount of resources that the internet threw at me, all those threads and blogs that you can learn it from here and it's free, and this YouTube course is the best, you can learn it in 5 hours. The thing is, it all overwhelms you a lot. And then you keep on saving and bookmarking and you never go back there. And every day you open Twitter or some feed and you'll see so many resources again, you'll bookmark and you'll do nothing about it. And the journey keeps repeating. And then you'll see other people getting accomplished and it'll be on the back of your head and give you unnecessary pressure. So my advice to you and me is to just get started. Pick one resource. It won't be the best resource. It won't be the best course. It won't be the best book. But the thing what makes it the best is your execution. If you just get started, after a while you can switch courses. You would be in a better position to even judge which is a better course, which is a better book, which you want to take. Initially, it was a mess because there were so many resources and everything was not something I could grasp at that stage. But we built from there, and I focused mainly, rather than the frameworks, I focused mainly on building my Python skills. And Python is what got me the job. There's nothing else. So my recruiter, who was looking for interns at that time, he came across that tweet and he said that, hey, we need someone who is skilled in pandas. So, so he reached out to me, and then because I was learning and he could see that I was learning things, so he did not give me the initial screenings. He directly sent an assessment over, and we did not even have a proper interview.
So what you think are the right skills one can learn? So for example, let's say I'm completely newbie. I don't know anything about data analysis. So I just want to get started with that. So what are the skills that you just recommend me to learn when it comes to data analysis? So first of all, thank you, Aakriti, for coming to this podcast.
But thank you for having me here.
Yeah, cool. So can we just start with an intro? Like you can just introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. So hi everyone, I am Aakriti, and you probably know me from my Twitter where I post about data analysis content. Regarding my work, I work at a startup, and my work usually revolves around our computer vision based product. And my work there is doing data manipulation or getting insights using Python and somewhat SQL. After that, I do part-time content creation, what people call it, and then I've been doing that on Twitter for the last 10 months and YouTube for the last 1 month. So yeah, that's about me.
Cool. So how's your journey into tech? Like how you just get started with data science, especially since you are just from computer science background, or probably you just know about that and you just started with that. But what's that complete journey look like from your college to getting that first job in data science? What's that complete journey?
So when I was in high school, we had this option of taking computer science alongside our usual science subjects like physics, chemistry, maths. So it started from there, like me coding in C++ and everything. So I liked that, and even though I was not very keen on doing engineering, just for the sake of computer science and learning computer science based things, I took computer science just so I could get into tech and programming. I loved that as a subject in my high school. Then the college way of teaching it wasn't something I really liked. So I started self-learning, and I think in my second year, last semester, we had this data science-based project. Till then, I was not into a lot of machine learning because I used to think that it was just a buzzword, and then everyone is doing it just for the sake of it. So I was more into web development, and I used to do that. I mean, I was learning that since the good thing about a CS degree is that it gives you exposure to a lot of fields. You have learned Java for app development, you've learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript for web development. So you know basics of each, and then after that you can build upon each one of them based on what your liking is. So we also had a compulsory data science based, like machine learning based project for second year. So I took upon a normal data set from Kaggle and got codes from here and there, started learning. And I really liked how we could manipulate data, perform predictions. So I liked that part of doing it. And I thought, okay, maybe this is something I'd want to do for the next 30 years of my life. And I started learning more about it. Initially, it was a mess because there were so many resources and everything was not something I could grasp at that stage. But we built from there, and I focused mainly, rather than the frameworks, I focused mainly on building my Python skills. And Python is what got me the job. There's nothing else. I mean, because frameworks can be learned, frameworks come and
Exactly.
go. We're every day we're just moving on a better model or a better version of. So we were early on YOLO V3, and now it's V5, V7. It keeps on moving. But the basics of Python, the foundations, is something which you really need to focus on, and they don't change.
Exactly.
So that is what I suggest anyone starting to focus on. Focus on Python first, and these frameworks and all of the sparkly things you see, they can be learned later on or in the job also, because every day you're focusing on a new thing which you've never heard of before, and you can learn it there. But Python is what gets you the job, I feel.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
awesome thing. And you just mentioned there are a lot of resources available, and it's very hard to pick the right one when you just start learning something. Whether it can be Python
Mhm.
or something, some frameworks, etc. So, what are the things? What are the resources that you just started?
Okay. So I started then only I started being active on Twitter as a consumer, not as a creator. And I saw so many resources and I was overwhelmed, obviously. But then I was very familiar with the Kaggle platform because I had used it previously for my hosting my projects and notebooks. So I started learning from there. And it has a, if you'd see, it has a very good variety of mini courses, micro courses, I feel, 4 hour courses for a proper introduction to machine learning, and then Python basics, pandas, data cleaning, feature engineering. So I got a hint of each from there. That's where it started. Python, I learned in my first year on Solo Learn. There's an app called Solo Learn. I used
Yeah,
to keep it on my phone and I had to commute a lot. So during the commute, I used to learn it from the app. That's where I learned Python from. It was easier to grasp because Python is the easiest language. You have to
exactly.
write a lot less, and then there are a huge variety of inbuilt functions. So coming from C++ and C, it seemed very easy for me. So Python I could grasp easily. After that, Kaggle was where my journey started into machine learning. Then I had resources like Andrew Ng's machine learning. I tried there. The math was too much, but I tried whatever I could get from there. And then YouTube, of course. Data Camp really helped because they had this set track of skills or the career path. SQL was there in my high school also, so I got it from there. And then I practiced it on Mode, and now there's a new platform for a good quality of SQL questions. Since Lead Code and HackerRank, these don't have. I mean, HackerRank does, but Lead Code doesn't have a lot of SQL questions. So that was something which I lacked during my prep days. Now I've been practicing SQL a lot. You would see a lot of SQL content from me because
Exactly.
because I create the content I'm currently practicing. So yeah, I've been practicing SQL a lot lately, and I'm still learning. Like every day, I'll show up to my manager and I'll say, "Oh, I don't know this. I have no idea what is happening here." So you'll have to learn, keep learning, and if you have this mindset that okay, I'll learn a certain set of subjects and I'll be the best, and I never have to learn my life again, that doesn't happen. At least that didn't happen in case of me. I'm not sure about what other people think.
That's the right mindset to have, like continuous learning. That's really cool, Akriti. And what's the journey to data analysis? I'm just seeing like you've been more active in creating such projects around data analysis, building portfolios around that. So what you just think about the current market in data analysis and the data analyst?
What I thought was that most industries, they're not that heavy, or they don't have the infrastructure or the kind of data to just implement AI or machine learning yet. But maybe in an upcoming few years, data science would be something which every industry wants. But still now, almost every industry, whatever data they're collecting, they do want analysis on it. Even a small
Exactly.
scale startup would want to get insights out of the data, and they can't keep monitoring millions of rows. So data analysis is something which has a higher demand, I feel. That is my perception on it, and every industry can readily use it. Secondly, since most of the audience which I had were not very experienced people, like 3 4 years into their journey, they were just newbies getting into tech or freshers. In data analysis, I feel the barrier to entry is lower than data science. So you can move from data analysis to data science. It's an upgrade from there. If you learn more machine learning and you get all of those concepts, you can go up the ladder and go to data science. But I feel that starting at data analysis. And if you're getting into tech, especially, data analysis is a much lower barrier to entry, and you can learn a few things. Start with them at least instead of getting overwhelmed with all of the resources there. And because that's what my main motto has been, that pick one resource, pick one skill which you need to master, and then ace it first. So that's why my content is more surrounded for data analysis. I do share a little machine learning here and there, but yeah, it's not. I mean, maybe it's like 5% of it.
So yeah, that's the thing. Okay, when it comes to data analysis or let's say data science, there are a lot of frameworks, some lot of things to learn, especially when it comes to this. So yeah, like focusing one thing at a time and being good at it, like what you just mentioned, is really important. So what you just think, like I just know when it comes to data analysis, Excel or let's say SQL, Python, some frameworks like Pandas, Matplotlib, NumPy. So these are some basic things. So what you think are the right skills one can learn? So for example, let's say I'm completely newbie, I don't know anything about data analysis, so I just want to get started with that. So what are the skills that you
Mhm.
just recommend me to learn when it comes to data analysis?
So if you're just getting started and you've not seen data or a database ever in your life, then I would recommend starting with Excel, because Excel is something which we are used to. You know, spreadsheets are something, even normal tables we have seen on Excel.
Exactly.
And since it is not code heavy, it is based on GUI, most of it. GUI and keyboard shortcuts, it would be easier to grasp and get. And most of the small scale companies still use SQL as their main data analysis tool. You can do data modeling on SQL. You can actually write scripts through VBA. You can create charts. So SQL is something, if your data is not, above a million rows, it is not, and you don't want the processes to happen very quickly. So if you have little data available, Excel in itself is great. So I'd recommend, if you're just starting, Excel would be great. Then if you want to upskill yourself, you will have to deal with relational databases and scale it to multiple uh, tables and huge volume of data. For that, you'd have to learn SQL. After SQL, there are tons of SQL versions, MySQL, Postgres, everything, and then tools that use that. But if it's just an entry level position, I don't think they'd ask you to be very good at Spark or something. They'd just want basic SQL queries from you. And then, to you can't just give someone an SQL query and insights in written. So you'd have to put away that even an end user or an executive who has no idea about the data can understand it. So for that, I feel any buy tool is very necessary. Any data visualization tool, it could be Power BI, it could be Tableau. There are a lot of Alteryx, but my favorite is Tableau. I feel it is very easy to use and it creates beautiful charts. So I'd recommend taking this path if you are someone which is starting right now. If you know programming and like you have worked around these loops, variables earlier on, then I think pandas for data manipulation, data cleaning, and then you'll have Seaborn or Matplotlib for data visualization. So pandas, Python in itself would have all of the extraction and cleaning, visualizing, getting the insights, everything Python can cover. But since a person who is just getting into tech from a non-tech background might not have that exposure or that kind of uh, thing, yeah, complexity to handle just yet. So I'd recommend taking this path. But if you have been acquainted, like in EC, I feel you would have gotten some programming languages, because our classmates did have one CS subject every term. So if you are someone who has learned programming language, then I think starting with Python would be great, because it makes things a lot more quicker to learn, implement, and then it is scalable also.
Yeah, that's really cool, Akriti. Like these are these 4 to 5, like when you're just getting started, whether it can be Excel, Python, like BI tools, what you just mentioned, that's really good enough to start someone who just want to get started with data analysis. And also, as we just previously discussed, there are a lot of resources even to learn all these things. So I just recommend someone who just watching this video, I just leave the link to Akriti's Twitter profile in the description, you can just check out if you just want to get started with some of the resources, whether it can be to learn SQL, to practice, or some other thing which you just want to get started with data analysis. So, like apart from these learning these things, like storytelling is also an important thing when it comes to data analysis, or let's say to presenting what's the insight that you just get from the data to a end user, or it can be to a client. So it's very important when it comes to data analysis. So what's your
Absolutely,
take
yeah.
on that? How one can just try to improve the storytelling skills?
Got it. See, the thing is, the previous answer which I gave was regarding the tools which you use. Now, these are the skills which you would want. So, data storytelling is one such skill, presentation skills, and then communication skills. Because as a data analyst, you'd be dealing with a wide variety of people. You'd maybe dealing with data scientists to give them an insight of how the data actually is and how they can use it in their model. Or you can just maybe you are working on a user front and you have to create insights for the user. So it would like we have Twitter analytics, or we have various apps giving us analysis of our
Exactly.
Twitter profiles. So that is a part of data visualization, and they're analyzing the data and then giving us. So it should be something which is very viable for the user to understand. Then there's a part where you have to directly go and communicate with the executives, people who don't have any idea, have never seen the data in their lives. So in order to facilitate that part of your job, it is very necessary that you learn data storytelling. And data storytelling won't come, I mean, you won't create your dashboard and then it'll be the best user driven dashboard ever. No, because those things, I don't think there's a course to learn them, or
Exactly.
there's some set of rules which you can follow to get there. You will have to practice, you'll have to get feedback, and you have to see that where your user is struggling trying to interpret the analysis which you've given. And then next time you'd have to work upon making sure that those difficulties are removed. So that's my take on it. And then Twitter roasts you a lot. You can just check out any of the visualizations I've posted. Someone is roasting me in the comments. So then I realized that okay, maybe this was not very evident. And then I try to explain. The thing is, upon the first look at my dashboard, that was not evident for an end user. So maybe that is something I need to improve on my side. So you can always go to public forums for feedback, and people will roast you enough to make sure that you don't repeat the same mistakes again.
Yeah, that's really important. Collecting the right feedback, iterating on top of that, and just trying to improving the things that you just done. That's really important, Akriti. And like we just discussed, what are the skills, basic things, skills that we just required, how they can just learn, what are the some courses, or let's say something resources where they can just start learning. Now, how one can just build that proper portfolio.
So, courses which are available, they have some projects with them, and then don't do those projects. I mean, do those projects, but don't put them on your portfolio or resume, because it is very evident that you have been given starter files and you have barely done anything in it. And so I would recommend that start with a very simple problem. It doesn't have to be a world changing problem. And start with an industry which you are targeting for your job search. Like for me, I was targeting education based companies, or companies which used ML AI to teach an audience. Okay.
Cool.
Maybe it could be that you're targeting the fashion industry. For someone else, you could be targeting the finance industry, like people who have the application in finance. So having your portfolio in that sector for that niche gives you brownie points. It doesn't have to be in that section, but if you know that this is the particular field I want to work in, so make sure that your projects are tailored for that field. It is not necessary, but it just adds a little thing to it, that okay, you also have the domain knowledge of the industry you're working in. Next is, once you know what industry you need to, find simple problems in that industry for which you can get data sets. You can either get data sets, you can get dirty data sets and clean them, or you can work on a survey and then collect data. So that is an additional, that you have actually created this whole analysis from scratch. That you can scrape data. There are various ways available to scrape data. So start with a simple problem, but make sure that it is solving something, and it is not just a problem statement that has been used on a data set which is so commonly available that everyone knows about it. So performing the most complex models on it also won't add to your resume, because the whole part of data analysis and data science is not for you to shine your skills. Okay, it is for you to solve problems, solve real world problems. You can have the
Exactly.
best tech stack available, and if it is not used to actually solve a real world problem, no one would need you. So you need not shine your skills. Maybe something is not getting solved by say a Python, a huge model, but it is getting solved by creating a visualization in Tableau. I barely think that some that cases exist. But you don't have to create a complex ensemble model for everything. Just create a simple visualization, do EDA, create data, clean it properly. So the first project which I created had heavy class imbalance. And then it gave 99.98% accuracy. I was so happy. I was so happy at that. And I went and presented it to my project mentor, and she said, have you came across the concept of class imbalance, Akriti? I said, no. And then I went and learned about that. And then I realized that that's not how things work. So this is what happens when you're not sure what your data is and what you're trying to solve. You run into these problems. And when you run into these problems, you learn about them. Since the whole point of this was to not start with learning everything, but implementing it little by little. So you learn one thing, you take 1 hour of video course, you give half as much as time at least to implement it on your own from scratch, and not just take the starter files which they have and put it on your resume. That is very evident to the recruiter, I feel. And if not, if you've not solved any actual problem, you've just worked on those Gisapita data sets, no one is going to. I mean, there's this very good video of Nick Singh. I'll add it somewhere, where he talks about how using the Titanic data set and the Iris data set is not useful anywhere.
Exactly. That's the important thing. Like, you don't need to solve something which is breathtaking. It can be of a simple problem. You can just take, for example, let's say you just want to analysis something kind of the Twitter profiles. For example, let's say your profile, or let's say some other profile. You can just take the profile. You can just mention what are the. You can just do some basic analysis on that. You can just build some uh, dashboards on top of that. So it can be something which is very useful. Yeah, rightly mentioned, Akriti.
Exactly.
That's really important thing. Like,
There's a meme somewhere that if you're trying to solve a machine learning problem, spend the first few hours on trying to understand whether it even needs machine learning, because most problems we think need machine learning don't actually need machine learning.
exactly.
So yeah,
That's really cool. And we have just probably discussed everything from how to get started with to building a like building a strong portfolio. So let's talk about something of your journey, like how you just started with creating. Like probably I should not call as creating content, like documenting what you just learned. So how you just
yeah.
started that?
So I was doing it. I created my profile in October, and then I saw that there are so many people, like October of 2020, where we were all locked down in our houses. And I saw that all the cool people actually hang out on Twitter from the tech side. I didn't do anything about it, and I was learning something. I kept on learning. Then, I guess few months later, or maybe around a year later, I thought, no, I have to be consistent with what I am doing, and the only way to be consistent is shouting in public that I am doing something. For that, I just committed to a challenge that, okay, these many days I have to code, I have to learn something new. I made myself a roadmap. I did not follow it perfectly, but what it did was, when I was documenting one of those things, I shared that these are some pandas liners which really helped me. And so my recruiter, who was looking for interns at that time, he came across that tweet, and he said that, hey, we need someone who is skilled in pandas. So so he reached out to me, and then because I was learning and he could see that I was learning things, so he did not give me the initial screenings. He directly sent an assessment over, and we did not even have a proper interview. So if you're here for interview tips, I don't have them because I've never given an interview in my life. But we just had a discussion over how I solved that assessment, and then I got hired, and I'm still working with that company more than a year, around a year later. So that's what, documenting my journey, not creating a viral thread. That did not get me a job. Just documenting the journey, which like added some value or showcased my skills. is what helps you get the reach, and you have no idea who is watching. So don't get stressed that you're not getting as many likes. That's this favorite line by J.K. Molina. You'll see he's a partner in Tweet Hunter. So he says likes ain't cash. So likes don't get you anything. Don't chase them. Chase on learning new skills and then documenting them. Just making sure that it is out in the wild. The rest, the algorithm takes care of it.
That's really important thing, and I've interviewed a lot of people from tech Twitter who just documenting their journey. Like they just got some amazing opportunities. Like they're just currently working remotely for some US companies. So yeah, like documenting yourself is the important thing that you can just do. Like if I just want to give some kind of advice for someone who just want to get started with some kind of technology, or let's say learning some data analysis, or let's say data science, whatever it may be, documenting is the thing that I just suggest, and that's what I'm just doing, and even Aakriti is doing, a lot of people is doing. So I just recommend you to do that. So that's really cool, Aakriti. That's really cool. And we just probably discussed a lot of things, Aakriti. Like, what's the final advice that you can just give to someone who's just watching the video? It's not just about learning data analysis, or let's say learning something, like the general advice that you can probably give to them. What advice that you can
So
just.
every once in a while, I start picking a new skill. Okay, so it happened to me 2 weeks ago. I started learning a new skill, and then the amount of resources that the internet threw at me, all those threads and blogs that you can learn it from here, and it's free, and this YouTube course is the best. You can learn it in 5 hours. The thing is, it all overwhelms you a lot, and then you keep on saving and bookmarking, and you never go back there. And every day you open Twitter or some feed, and you'll see so many resources again. You'll bookmark, and you'll do nothing about it, and the journey keeps repeating. And then you'll see other people getting accomplished, and it'll be on the back of your head and give you unnecessary pressure. So my advice to you and me is to just get started. Pick one resource. It won't be the best resource. It won't be the best course. It won't be the best book. But the thing what makes it the best is your execution. If you just get started, after a while you can switch courses. You would be in a better position to even judge which is a better course, which is a better book, which you want to take. But just get started, because for a beginner, for someone who has no idea what is going on, every course is good, because every course is giving you something out of it. So just start. Execution is more important. Don't bookmark things. Don't just keep on adding to your Notion and do nothing about it. That is not going to help. That is not going to add skills to your resume. Add something. Even if you watch one YouTube video and implement that as a project, that will be much more like monumental to your journey than spending 1 hour on Twitter trying to bookmark resources. There is no best resource. The best resource is the one which you're currently acting on. So yeah, that's from my side.
That's really cool, Akriti. Like it's been awesome discussion with you, and hope people find most value. If even one person find value from this video, get inspired to learn something and to get started with data analysis, or let's say data science, that would be really awesome. And thank you for your time for this podcast,
Yeah,
Akriti.
thanks for having me here. You've been amazing.